For high school seniors across the country, receiving your college acceptance letter tends to be a source of excitement. However, reactions were different for students who received letters like these. I would like to congratulate you on your acceptance to the university. We're sorry that this will include being raped by someone you thought you could trust. Your claims against your rapist will be ignored, much like your right to feel safe at school. This letter is part of the Unacceptable Acceptance Letters campaign, which demands universities take sexual assault more seriously. And videos created by the campaign, chilling letters like this one, are read aloud cheerfully, with students and parents alike seeming to accept and even celebrate their fate. These videos, which were published in April 2016 and currently have over 5 million views on Facebook alone, prompted sources like the New York Times, Huffington Post, and Time to call the campaign disturbing, haunting, and unfortunately, realistic, as 1 in 16 men and 1 in 5 women are sexually assaulted in college. This campaign's unique effort to combat campus rape prompts the question, how does framing negative outcomes as inevitable alter efforts to promote reform? To answer, we will use Frank Reda's 2016 book, Abolishing Freedom, a plea for a contemporary use of fatalism. Reda makes the case for approaching the future with a fatalistic viewpoint, or the belief that outcomes are predetermined, making it ideal to evaluate this campaign. Therefore, we will first analyze Reda's model before discovering some applications and finally some implications. Because, as this campaign website says, if they accept you, don't accept this. Reda's term, comic fatalism, may seem like a contradiction, but he argues that assuming the worst will happen is the best way to foster new perspectives on complicated issues. He outlines 3 elements of comic fatalism: self-negation, assuming the apocalypse has already happened, and finally, undermining givenness. First, self-negation. Reda claims that we should view freedom as determined by something that is external to me. Self-negating our agency lets us evaluate our actual choices more realistically. Reda offers the example of global warming. Comic fatalism points out that recycling your plastic water bottle will probably not stop the polar ice caps from melting. Although telling us our individual actions are meaningless may seem nihilistic, this mindset frees us to consider bigger solutions. Second, comic fatalism operates under the assumption that the apocalypse has already happened. Cheerful, but there's a reason. Acting as if the worst case scenario is inevitable makes more of an impact than talking about how it might happen. By assuming that global warming is inevitable, comic fatalism prompts us to consider actions that deal with the reality of climate change, rather than spending time debating its legitimacy. Finally, undermining givenness uses irony to paradoxically highlight the comic in comic fatalism by framing events in a way where nothing is given. This allows action to become possible and prevents fatalism from becoming nihilistic. Although comic fatalism argues that it is too late for climate change, it also discusses solutions, inspiring us to take action. Okay, so we have no agency, the apocalypse is here, freedom is a lie, and nothing is real. Reda's model is pretty depressing, but it's exactly the tactic the Unacceptable Letters campaign uses to captivate its audience. So now let's apply Reda's model to this campaign. First, comic fatalism uses self-negation to remove individual agency. In each video, students read letters aloud which congratulate them on their acceptance to college, while also stating realities, such as, you will be raped in your first semester, and as a result, attempt to end your own life the next. It does not contain caveats such as, if you choose to drink or if you attend parties. This self-negation makes the issue not how an individual can prevent their own assault, turning attention instead to systemic causes, and fulfilling our first tenet. Second, the assumption that the apocalypse has already happened underpins the entire unacceptance campaign. Each video forces college students and parents alike to view sexual assault not as a future possibility, but a present reality that students must begin to cope with. This framing is meant to call on the audience in a direct way. For too many college students, the apocalypse has already happened. This acceptance of the worst case scenario fulfills our second tenet. Finally, undermining givenness. Despite claiming in each video that rape and sexual assault are inevitable, the Unacceptable Letters campaign website then offers resources that suggest we do have some freedom to act. It links directly to a petition that visitors can send to their college, demanding provisions such as accountability measures for campuses, training standards for faculty, and resources for victims. This undermines the given nature of what we have just witnessed and inspires us to take action, fulfilling our final tenet. Margaret Johnson, campaign director, told Adweek that they created this campaign to hold universities more accountable. With this understanding, we can return to today's research question. How does framing negative outcomes as inevitable alter efforts to promote reform? We found that a fatalistic framing forces viewers to be confronted with the reality of sexual violence on our campuses. But the ironic nature of the campaign left space to consider and act towards an alternate reality. The power of this type of fatalism can be explored through two implications. First, stating that the apocalypse is here forces the audience to change their perception of time as it relates to the future. The Guardian of January 10th, 2017 explains that with everything from fashion advice to escape code words, we tend to view sexual assault issues as future-based by coaching young people to make these so-called correct choices in order to avoid assault. However, comic fatalism argues that the past has already determined the future, taking the choice out of our hands and making our hopes for the future largely irrelevant. By framing rape as a direct outcome of attending college, this campaign expands a potential tragedy to everyone involved in the college process and forces us to confront rape culture on a systematic level. In this way, future rhetoric should focus on a deterministic past rather than a changeable future in order to advocate for change for everyone. Second, this campaign's use of self-negation completely removes the future victim's right to choose. But its harsh reality may end up provoking fear instead of action. Salon on April 18, 2016 explains, "It's hard to tell how many incoming freshmen will be inspired to activism after hearing things like, 'You will be taken to the basement and violently raped. We will only suspend him for a single day. Then you're on your own.'" These videos, when taken out of a wider context, may only serve to scare and intimidate those already at risk in a college environment. In the future, we must ask ourselves if it is necessary to traumatize vulnerable individual audience members in order to advocate for systematic change. After analyzing Rutta's model, its applications and implications, it's clear that the Unacceptable Acceptance Letters campaign is calling out rape culture on campus in a way that is intentionally distressing and disquieting. But perhaps, as comic fatalism suggests, it is the only way to achieve any change at all.